and welcome to Green and Gold Radio. I'm your host, William Plavin Masters, here with my very special guest this Christmas special, Mr. Merriman. How are you doing today?
Fine. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. So today we're going to discuss the biblical startings of Christmas, starting with what the whole holiday is, the birth of Jesus, right?
Yeah, sure. When it comes to Christmas, and you start to look at the Bible, I guess the first thing that's worth talking about is that there's 4 Gospels, and only 2 of them even mention the birth of Jesus. In the Gospel of Mark, they jump right in at his baptism as an adult. And in John, other than the prelude that talks about the beginnings of the cosmos and all that kind of stuff, we also have Jesus entering the scene at about 30 or something like that, getting baptized. So only half the Gospels even mention Jesus' birth. And the 2 Gospels talk about the event in different ways. They have a lot of things in common, but then they have some distinct differences. And so when you think about Christmas, when you think about like the religious images that might show up in someone's nativity scene or out in front of a building, you could imagine, some story that's depicted in sculptures or in art. And when you ask people to describe that, they might talk about a variety of things that are mashed together from Matthew and from Luke. And that mashed together story combines things from both Gospels, Matthew and Luke. And that's understandable. We create this combined image. But sometimes when you mash those things together, you lose the meaning or the value of the elements. So like when you think about a nativity scene, whether it's out in front of a building or in someone's house, what's in that scene? What do you call to mind?
Well, the 3 wise men or the 3 kings, right? And then usually some animals, Mary, Joseph, and then Jesus in the manger, right?
Mm-hmm. Anything else that you can recall?
Usually I see an angel or like the North Star
Very
above,
good.
right?
Very good. So in that combined image that we have in our heads, we pulled things from Matthew and from Luke, and we've mashed them together, and that's okay. That makes sense. The problem is that sometimes when you mash them together, the parts lose their meaning or their significance. So, for example, in Matthew, we have a genealogy of Jesus, where's this baby coming from? And Luke has that, but not until much later. In Matthew, the birth of Jesus, we learn about the birth of Jesus or the existence of Jesus because Joseph has these dreams. He has this dream, and in these dreams, we're told that his bride, the woman he's betrothed to, is going to bear a child. And in Luke, the angel Gabriel comes to Mary, and we have the Annunciation. In Matthew, we have 3 wise men who are following a star, but in Luke, an angel appears to shepherds and pronounces the good news to them. And so you have these different elements from Matthew and Luke that are pulled together. And what you miss sometimes is that these Gospels authors are speaking to audiences, and those details mean something specific. So Matthew's audience, typically people will think of the Gospel of Matthew as having a Jewish audience, and it's significant that in the Old Testament, there's this character Joseph who interprets dreams, and by the interpretation of those dreams, he saves Israel. Well, Joseph in the New Testament has these dreams, and he interprets them, and by those interpretations, he saves Jesus. And in the Gospel, Herod is the king at that time. I guess you could say he was the king of the Jews by permission of the Romans, and this king is trying to kill Jesus. And yet foreigners, these 3 wise men in Matthew, come in and say, hey, this is God with us. This child's birth is significant. This is a major moment. And those 3 wise men would have meant something specific to Matthew's audience. Whereas in Luke's gospel, you have an audience that may have been Gentiles. They're not Jews. And they have this emphasis in Luke on Jesus's reaching out to everyone. He's inclusive, and he is open to Gentiles and things like that. And so the shepherds are an occupation that's not respected. They're considered outcasts. And so for the angel to come and announce the birth of the Savior to shepherds is a specific way for Luke to say, hey, the good news is here, and it's for people who are on the outs. Why is that important? Well, in Luke, Jesus is born in, a manger. It's a part of the story that you probably included in your mind, and that's because there's no room for him at the inn. So in Luke's gospel, this gospel that's emphasizing Jesus' inclusivity, we have a Messiah who's born into a world that has no room for him. He's born in a back alley of sorts. And a manger, if you have an Italian-American grandmother, she might say, "Mangia, mangia." Well, a manger is just something that animals eat out of. And so we have these animals there, partially to suggest that the king of the universe or something like that, the Messiah, is being born in a barn. And instead of having a royal crib, like Caesar Augustus, okay, so Luke's audience would have known very well that the emperor of the world, the ruler of the world, is in Rome, and he sits on this high throne. But in the Gospel of Luke, the Messiah, the Christ, has been born into the world among the outcasts in the back alleys, and he has no place in the inn, and so his manger bed is kind of like a symbol or a sign of his humility. All that's in that traditional scene that you have, but it would have meant something specific to Luke's audience. So, for example, in Matthew's audience, Matthew's genealogy, Jesus is traced back to Abraham, the father of the Jews, and the audience probably would have thought of Abraham as their ancestor. But when you finally get to the genealogy of Luke, it says that Jesus' ancestor is Adam, and Adam's the father of everyone. So there are subtle differences between the way Matthew and Luke portray the birth of Jesus, and those differences mean something to the audiences. And some of that gets lost when we clump them together. And I guess if we know a little bit, then you might look at that manger scene and say, oh, wow, like this is someone who is inviting the nations, because now we have Epiphany being one thing, but once upon a time it celebrated that the nations had been called to the birth of Christ in the three wise men, or that the shepherds and the lowly and the humble had been invited to celebrate the birth of this child. In Matthew, you have an angel, or you have a message to Joseph in a dream, but in Luke, the first two characters we learn about in that gospel are women, are Elizabeth and Mary. And in classic fashion, the birth of Jesus comes to us not just to the shepherds, not just to the outcasts and the lowly, the people in the back alleys, but that we learn about this story because God is interacting with women. And those are people that might be unappreciated or oppressed or on the outs. And then that's at the heart of the Christmas story. So you have these biblical notions, and then in history, in Italy, do you know the word creche? Have you heard that word?
I've heard it before.
So creche is like another word for a manger, like when people set up that little scene in their house. So in the 12th century, St. Francis is really trying to live the humility of the gospel. And he has all kinds of, brothers and community life and all this kind of stuff. And so he's in Greccio, this small town in Italy. And to celebrate Christmas, he goes out into a cave because he thinks that Christ was born in a cave. And he wants to experience at Christmas the poverty and the humility and the simplicity of Christ's birth. And he knows on some level that for many, Christmas is just all luxury, is all opulence and all that kind of thing. And so Francis has this desire to recreate the humility and the simplicity and even the poverty of Christ's birth. And so there's this cave there today in Greccio, Italy, where they have this altar, and there's even, have you ever heard of a Madonna Lactans?
I can't say I have.
So Madonna Lactans in art history is this depiction of Mary breastfeeding Jesus. And people in the past were comfortable with that imagery, that iconography. If you go to the Cleveland Museum of Art, there are some famous examples of Madonna Lactans, like lactating. But when you go to Greccio in Italy, and you go to this cave where St. Francis celebrated Christmas, there's an altar, and on the back wall there's an icon of Mary breastfeeding Jesus. And we're reminded that this is a real baby, and that babies come from their mother's bodies, and their mother's bodies support them through gestation, but even after birth, their mother's bodies give these babies life. And there's an intimacy, there's a closeness between the mother and child in that moment. And so as Christians, we might go and be fed by the body of Christ, but the literal physical baby body of Christ was fed by the body of Mary. And so at Christmas, we have these opportunities to be reminded of this intimacy, of this life-giving sacrifice that Mary gave to Jesus just by his birth. The final thing I think about when it comes to this is a story that I read about. And Christmas, it's it's in December, it's in the middle of the wintertime, and there's all this stuff that we could say about it, but it's only in 2 of the 4 Gospels. The one thing that all 4 Gospels have, and that's fundamental, is Jesus' death and resurrection. And theologically, Easter is the most important Christian feast or holiday. But there's this guy this theologian, Urs von Balthasar, who says that the cross, that Easter is accomplished with his birth, that at the birth of Jesus, all of the things that we celebrate at Easter are already present at his birth. So anyways, I was reading this one priest tell the story about when he got ordained and he went back to his sister's house at Christmas time, and she let him in the house, and she went to the kitchen to get him a cup of coffee, and while he was sitting on her couch, his 2-year-old niece toddled into the room, and he said, "Hello, how are you? Merry Christmas," that kind of stuff. And the toddler very awkwardly pointed at a ceramic figure that was on the coffee table, and he said, "Oh, I see that. Do you know what that is?" And he was pointing at a little ceramic nativity scene that the mother had on the table. And he said, "Yes, I see that. Do you know what that is?" And the little kid pointed at it and said, "Fragile. Don't touch." And he said, "That's it. Now I know what my homily is." You know, that if Easter is the pivotal Christian feast, it celebrates the fact that God is incarnate among us and is capable of even death and suffering, and that the man on the cross is the baby in the crib. And that when you have a baby, if you're not careful, you know, you can kill, if you don't carry a child carefully, if it falls and hits the hard ground, or its neck is so weak that it can't really even support its head. And babies are fragile, you know. And I think the fragility of the man on the cross, I think that Urs von Balthasar might be saying that the fragility of the man on the cross, the sacrifice that can be made, is already present in the fragility of that baby in the manger. And that fragility, you know, in the Gospel of Matthew, Herod has these plans to kill this child, and Joseph has to pick up Mary, and they run to another land to live in safety while this tyrant is back home killing children. That's already, so that fragility, that real incarnated situation, the human condition, is already present at Christmas. And I think for us to recognize that when we see those moments, when we see that baby in that crib, that baby is fragile, because babies are fragile, and human frailty is at the heart of the Easter story, you know. So those are the kinds of ideas that come to mind, and that's what I was thinking about when you asked me to come in and talk about this stuff today. And I think that's okay that it gets mashed together. The question is whether or not we learn a little bit, and when we look at those Christmas decorations, we're reminded of those elements of that Christ is born among the outcast and the humble and the lowly, and that he is recognized by the nations, that people have come to celebrate him from far and from wide, and that his story goes back, and that he's a Jew, he's a son of Abraham, but he's also the son of humanity, and that all humans can share in that story. And there's a lot, I think that doesn't tear it down. I think it deepens the meaning of these very common symbols.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate it, and thank you so much for coming on this special Christmas edition,
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Merriman.
Thank you for baking those cookies and offering them to me, and I'll trust Mr. Barrett to eat them.
Of course.
That's what I do well.
Well, you're the best. I appreciate it, and thanks for coming on.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
Thank you. This has been Green and Gold Radio, and we'll be right back. Hello and welcome to Green and Gold Radio Christmas Edition. I'm your host, William Plavin Masters, here with my very special guest today, Mr. Barrett, Mr. Co-host, and let's get this thing started. So, for Christmas special, I wanted to do something a little bit different. And for those of you listening remotely, we are recording this on Instagram. We're doing an Instagram Live type deal. And we're going to be talking about the history of St. Nicholas, you know. We're going to start off with some stories about him, and then we're going to kind of move into who he actually was and kind of transition into who he was in other cultures, and then kind of finish off with who he is today, you know. Since he's kind of this iconic figure for Christmas. He's the spokesman, if you will, for the holiday season. All right, let's get started. So,
Fire up.
I'll get started. So, St. Nicholas, he can be traced back hundreds of years to around 280 AD near Myra in modern-day Turkey. He was admired for his piety and kindness, kind of like modern-day St. Nick. He was born into riches, and he spent all of his riches helping the sick and the poor. And that's kind of how he gained his reputation for kindness, And that's how he gained his title as a saint. It's part of it, at least, So, the most famous story about St. Nicholas tells us the custom of hanging up stockings to put presents in, and it kind of goes like this. There was a poor man who had 3 daughters. The man was so poor that he did not have enough money for a dowry, so his daughters couldn't get married. One night, Nicholas secretly dropped a bag of gold down the chimney and into the house. The bag fell into the stocking that had been hung by the fire to dry. This was back then, stockings regularly hang by the fire, so it's not like some weirdos just nailing socks to this fireplace. No, they actually hung their real socks up to dry, not these ridiculous modern huge socks that we have. Yeah. They hang it up for the fire to dry. This was repeated later with the second daughter. Finally, determined to discover the person who had given him the money, the father secretly hid by the fire every evening until he caught Nicholas dropping in a bag of gold. Nicholas begged the man not to tell anyone what he had done because he did not want to bring attention to himself. He was a very humble and modest man, But soon the news got out, and when everyone received a secret gift, it was thought that maybe St. Nicholas had been there, That little line, And yes, I have a cheat sheet because, I don't know these by heart. I don't know these by heart. Yeah,
the Santa
exactly.
Claus we know today is a man of legend and lore that has grown through tradition from different stories, and it's hard to keep track of these stories. So
Absolutely.
We've got a cheat sheet. Hopefully that still keeps us on the nice list.
Yeah.
Nonetheless.
Mr. Barrett, how about story number 2?
Yeah, let's take it over. So St. Nicholas is eventually exiled, and I was shocked when reading this and studying this, but I'm reminded at the year of his birth, around 280 A.D., this was still around a time of persecution against Christians within this vast Roman Empire. So he was exiled from Myra, and he was put into prison under the Emperor Diocletian. And nobody knows precisely when he died, but it's on December 6th in either 345 or 352 A.D. That we commemorate his death. So if you today celebrate St. Nicholas Day at your house, which my family has always done, you put your shoes out on the night of December 5th. Then on the morning of December 6th, do you know this tradition?
I don't.
Oh, man. Yeah, on the morning of December 6th, children find treats or presents in their shoes, trusting that it was St. Nicholas who had placed them there. Actually, I know my sister, when she was in high school, her school had all the students put their shoes out in the hallway on December 6th, and the homeroom teachers, acting for St. Nicholas, of course, would put treats into the students' shoes. And now this is where the story gets especially funny, because the homeroom teachers would have a list of all the students who had gotten detentions, and they would get coal in their shoes, which is just amazing.
That is amazing.
On that school's administration. So in 1087, legend has it that his bones were actually stolen from his grave in Turkey by some Italian merchant sailors, and that these sailors then took his body and bones to the Italian port of Bari. My apologies to all of our Italian friends out there if I've misspoken this. So he lived and died in Turkey, but his bones today are at a church in Italy. And on this feast day, even to this day on December 6th, sailors in the port of Bari carry his statue from the cathedral out to the sea so that St. Nicholas might accompany them or bless them for safe travels.
There we go.
Excellent.
So,
I'm going to have
okay.
another cookie if you don't mind.
Of course, please do. So, those were the stories that we had about St. Nicholas, the original St. Nicholas, who he really was. And now I've got a fun little fact, and that most of his reindeer are probably females. And to all the guests listening who just got frustrated for some reason, for some masculine reason, this is probably true because reindeer, males at least, shed their antlers to prepare for new antlers during the warmer seasons, whereas females just keep them just for the heck of it, just, hey, why not, So yeah, next time you think of Santa's reindeer, that's a little tidbit for you,
Mm-hmm.
So, Santa and other cultures. Let's get down to this. So, of course, not all cultures are going to have the same idea of Santa Claus or are going to have even similar ideas of Santa Claus. So, in the UK, Father Christmas, well, that's what he's called. In the UK, he's called
His name is Father Christmas.
Yeah, that's who he is, you know? Some people say that Santa lives in the North Pole. Whereas in Finland, they say that he lives in part of the northern region of their country called Lapland. And I'm not sure where that comes from. It's probably Finnish of some sort, you know?
Never heard of that before.
Yeah, I don't know. But everyone agrees somewhat that he travels through the sky on a sleigh that is pulled by reindeer of some sort. And then he comes to houses down the chimney at night and places presents for the children in socks or bags by their bed. And in front of the family Christmas tree, if you celebrate Christmas, you know. That's at least the modern worldwide conception of Santa Claus, you know. And the stories of St. Nick started to grow old during the Reformation. But someone had to deliver presents to children at Christmas. So this is kind of where St. Nicholas transitions from St. Nicholas to Santa Claus, you know? So in the UK, particularly in England, he became, like we had laughed about before, Father Christmas or Old Man Christmas, an old character from story plays during the Middle Ages in the UK and parts of Northern Europe. In France, he was then known as Pierre Noel. So there, for our French scholars out there, you probably know what that means, because I don't.
I don't either. Oui is all I know.
Oui, yes, and baguette, but that's I don't know if that's fully
Omelette
French.
du fromage. That's from an old cartoon.
Ah, cool.
Cheese omelet.
Okay. In some countries, including parts of Austria and Germany, the present giver became the Christkind, a gold-haired baby with wings who symbolizes the newborn baby Jesus. So, like 10 minutes ago, we had Mr. Merriman, a senior theology teacher, on, and he was talking about, you'll hear this on the recorded part of the episode. He talked about how Jesus and the Gospels interpret Jesus' birth. So I guess Austria and Germany kind of stuck to that a little firmer than everyone else did.
And there's something so fascinating to that term, Christkind, or Christ. How did you pronounce it?
I have no idea how it's pronounced.
I don't know exactly either, but if we break down like the etymology of that term, each piece in that, Christ, derives from the Greek Christos, meaning the anointed one. So Christ is not Jesus' last name. It's a designation given to him, most likely by his apostles, perhaps even after his death. It's to say that this Jesus Christ, is Jesus the anointed one. And if we look at the term kind, to be kind is not just to be nice. Kind derives from, really, it's part of its own root, kin, like our people, our tribe. So when you act with kindness, you're really treating each other as if you are kin. Like you are my cousin in some way, or you belong to the same tribe as I do. So if we, just to look at that term in Austria and Germany as Christ kind, like the anointed one who is our kin. Like he is among us, we are of him, he is our people, he is our person, we are his people. That's a real, I'd not known this before today, but that's a really fascinating religious theological way of introducing the gift giver of Christmas, the true gift giver of Christmas.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for those of you watching and listening, that was not on the sheet. Mr. Barrett just literally pulled that out of nowhere.
Two words, Christ and kind. I'll tell you what I know about him.
There you go.
And I've only learned them through other teachers at St. Ed's.
Yeah.
But a golden-haired baby with wings. Whew.
That's a pretty cool image right there, you know?
What's cooler, a big, old man with a beard and jolly belly, or a baby with wings?
Yeah. I don't know.
Wild. I don't know, man.
It's two ends of the same spectrum, I guess.
Exactly.
So, in the early U.S., we talked about his name in other cultures, but his early name in the U.S. was Kris Kringle, which came from Christkind,
Yeah.
An American way of saying a very foreign thing.
Yeah.
And later, Dutch settlers in the U.S. took the old stories of St. Nicholas with them, and Kris Kringle and St. Nicholas became Sinterklaas, or...
Sinterklaas.
I pronounced that's probably so American.
No,
that was
you're
probably
fine.
terrible.
Sinterklaas.
Or as we now say, Santa Claus. So that's kind of a cool evolution of the name Santa Claus. You know?
And it says something about the United States' own identity and its formation of this melting pot of all these different cultures contributing to the overall society.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dutch settlers.
Thank
for the
you, Dutch
Santa Claus
settlers. Yes.
that I know so well today, the Sinterklaas. Excellent.
All right.
Yes, let's take a peek at some more stuff here. Hope you
All
guys
right.
are doing well who are on
Yeah.
live with
Actually,
us.
here, Mr. Barrett, can you check to make sure they can
Yeah.
hear us? Because that would be the most hilarious thing
you guys
ever
can hear us, right?
if they couldn't hear us this whole time. Oh boy. Hold on. All right, we're back to the
Today,
mic
yeah.
and go.
We've gone through. Well, let's recap. We've gone through the Saint Nicholas story. The bishop from Myra who saves a family of 3 daughters, and that's so cool. How Santa who flies in the air today and drops down a chimney. Like that's all true to the tradition of Saint Nick. What else have we uncovered? Saint Nicholas, his death and his transition from Myra to Italy. We've looked at, what else have we looked at, audience? William gave us a nice introduction to Santa across different countries in the UK, in Austria and Germany, and this Dutch-American settler, Sinterklaas, which is translated to Santa Claus. So, really, Saint Nick, Santa Claus, Sinterklaas, Kris Kringle, today in the United States, really has a lot to do with pop culture. In the late 18th century, so the 1700s, in December 1773, and again in December 1774, a New York newspaper reported that groups of Dutch families were gathering to honor the anniversary of St. Nicholas's death. So what do we got here? And then at the turn of the century, in 1804, a member of the New York Historical Society, John Pintard, distributed these woodcuts of St. Nicholas at the Society's annual meeting. And some evidence of these woodcuts last in our pop culture today for Santa Claus. These woodcuts included some background pieces of things that we know of Santa today, like images filled with stockings of toys and fruit hanging over the fireplace. So thank you, John Pintard, for your work with the New York Historical Society and giving us an image of St. Nick today. This continues on in 1809. Washington Irving popularized stories as he referred to St. Nicholas as the patron saint of New York in his book, The History of New York. And his Santa Claus's prominence grew even more as Sinterklaas was described as everything from a rascal with a blue 3-cornered hat.
Never heard that before.
I've never heard that before, but you would encourage me to search Santa online with images, and I saw a few blue Santas out there. A red waistcoat, and even having yellow stockings. And this even varied to a man wearing a broad-brimmed hat and a huge pair of Flemish trunk hose.
I have no idea what that is. I'm
No
going to be
idea.
totally honest.
Me neither. We'll have to look it up.
Yes.
Now, I remember doing this next piece as part of a project, a presentation I did on Santa Claus in a theology class I took, the Feast of Christmas. And of course, being a Santa lover myself, I chose to do my presentation on our jolly red guy. So Santa Claus, St. Nick, becomes even more popular again in the Victorian era when different writers, poets, and artists reconnected with these older stories of St. Nick. So perhaps one of the more famous ones, or one of the ones that really shapes our understanding of St. Nicholas today, comes in 1833 when the poet Dr. Clement Clark Moore, he's not necessarily a poet, he's a doctor, but he writes a poem for his children entitled A Visit from St. Nicholas, or what we probably know it better as today, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. And in this poem that he had written for his children, we see this description of St. Nicholas having 8 reindeer, each having names. Dasher. What are the names of the reindeer?
On
You know
Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and
Prancer and
Vixen.
Vixen,
On
Comet.
Donner and on Comet, on Cupid and Donner and Blitzen. And then there's
But do
Rudolph.
you recall the most famous reindeer? There we go. We'll stop that. So Dr. Clement Clark Moore shares this poem. And it was initially for his children, but I think it gets published at some point. And it goes out for all people to read. that song Rudolph, which I was just singing or ruining. What that's up for the
It
audience.
was pretty good. It was fine.
Was written in 1949. I'd never known that.
Huh.
Yeah. Take it away, William.
Older than I thought.
Me
Well, that kind of helped transition Santa Claus into modern day terms. But have you guys heard the rumor of Coca-Cola owning Santa Claus to a certain degree, somewhat or other?
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Because he's all over with Coke.
Oh, absolutely.
Coca-Cola,
You know.
yeah.
So I did some research, and the fantastic article we pulled all of this information from actually had a Coca-Cola story in it. So there's the urban legend that they might even own Santa Claus. But the article says this is not true, and I was actually surprised with this because...
And even Coke admits that.
Yeah,
Even
and
the
I've
company admits it.
heard this for a long time, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
You know? So long before Coke had been invented, St. Nicholas had worn bishop's red robes during the Victorian times, and even before that. He wore a kind of range of colors from red to green to blue to brown, but red was always his favorite. So, like, I'd always heard that he wore green before Coca-Cola, but, you know, I guess he wore blue too, you know? Kind of an interesting thing there. And in January of 1863, the magazine Harper's Weekly published the first illustration of St. Nicholas, or St. Nick, by Thomas Nast. Excuse me. In this, he was wearing a Stars and Stripes outfit. Over the next 20 years, Nast continued to draw Santa every Christmas, and his works were very popular, you know? A Stars and Stripes Santa.
Could you imagine that? That's like a video game character Santa.
Yeah.
Like you could change his outfit. I could never imagine. We'll have to look it up.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So this is when Santa really started to develop his big tummy and his style of red and white outfit he wears today.
Nobody likes a skinny Santa.
I wonder if that's where the red and white came from. The stripes, the stars and...
Yeah.
Huh.
Thank you, Thomas Nast, for giving us a
thought of
picture.
that.
Yeah, right?
That's interesting.
Mm.
This is kind of when Santa came into being, you know? And Nast designed Santa's look on some historical information about Santa Claus and the poem A Visit from St. Nicholas. On January 1st, 1881, Harper's Weekly published Nast's most famous picture of Santa Claus, complete with the big red belly, the armful of toys, and the smoking pipe, you know? That image that we kind of all have of Santa Claus at some point. This image of Santa became popular. More artists started drawing him, and he kind of just shot up like a wildfire, you know? He went through the art world. He went through the imaginations of many people. So Santa was first used in Coke advertisements in the 1920s, after they got rid of cocaine in the recipe.
Yikes.
With Santa... Hold on. I don't think we should just breeze over that, actually. Whenever somebody says they know the original Coke recipe, I always have to do a double take.
Yeah.
Because do you really, though?
You really?
Did you really make the original Coke recipe?
And I think that Coca-Cola now has like a subtitle to its title on all of its cans that says original recipe or like classic taste. It's one or the other. So please don't sue me, Coke. But I do know that
in this high school podcast,
yeah,
that has
right.
very few listeners.
Yeah, please, Coca-Cola, don't come find me. It wouldn't even help that I'm more of a Pepsi guy, anyways. But I do know that in Coke's marketing, when they changed their recipe, they had a concern as to whether or not people would still want to drink it. So they put a subtitle on their can, assuring their consumers that it would be the same classic taste. Even though the ingredients have changed.
Yeah. It's like, how'd they do that? Artificial cocaine?
I know. Yeah, right?
How do you make an artificial... Oh, my God. Have you ever seen the picture of, like, the glass with the Coca-Cola?
Yeah.
And it's just half the glass is sugar, and that's what it actually is?
Yeah. It's frightening. I can feel it on my teeth. Like, I can grind my teeth together and feel that Coca-Cola feeling.
But just imagine that sugar, and instead of sugar, it's cocaine.
Oh my God! I didn't think of that. I thought you were talking about like dental hygiene.
No. Yeah, that's today. But all of that sugar is replacing like half of that amount, but with cocaine per cup. Could you imagine that? No wonder people got addicted to Coca-Cola.
100%. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So it's a little crazy rant that we went on, but there you go. You know.
And Santa Claus is all part of this. Now, is it fair to say, William, that Coca-Cola would admit to not inventing Santa Claus, but they did, in fact, have a heavy thumbprint on our understanding of Santa today.
Absolutely. They, in some way, shape, or form, they popularized him.
Right.
In modern pop culture, you know? They
Right.
kind of made it who he is almost, but
Right.
not really, because that was from the artist that made him. They kind of more widespread their idea of Santa Claus, you know?
And if given some imagination, given some things to imagine about the St. Nicholas figure whom we've all come to love so well.
Absolutely. So the Santa drawings by Thomas Nash was used by Coca-Cola in around the 1920s. And in 1931, the classic Coke Santa was drawn by artist Haddon Sundblom? I'm not sure. Something along those lines. He took the idea of Nast's Santa, but made him even more larger than life and jolly, replacing the pipe with a glass of Coke, and created the famous Coke-holding Santa, you know? Because nothing will stay in your mind like the idea of Santa drinking Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. And we can save the corn cob pipe for Frosty the Snowman.
Absolutely, yes. So Coca-Cola also agreed that the red suit was made popular by Thomas Nast and not them. So that's kind of a big disclaimer there, you know?
Credit to Thomas Nast.
Absolutely. So Coca-Cola has continued to use Santa in their advertisements. Oh my God. In their advertisements since the 1930s. And in 1995, they also introduced the Coca-Cola Christmas truck in the Holidays Are Coming TV advertisements. The red truck, covered with lights in the classic Coke Santa on its side, is now a famous part of the recent Christmas history.
Incredible.
There we go. It's the story of Santa Claus and Christmas.
St. Nicholas, who we know today. And for all of our listeners, you must admit that Santa Claus is real.
Absolutely.
Because tradition is real.
Absolutely.
Right? We have evidence of the tradition of Saint Nick. And the real question of tradition is not, does it actually exist, but rather, does it work? And has it been handed on? And is it in some way true? Yeah. And I think that gift giving is an incredibly beautiful piece of Christmas, where we give not just items, but little pieces of ourselves to each other. And to think that, that's something that's been handed on. The word tradition itself comes from tradere or tradere in Latin, which means to hand on. So to think that this Christmas tradition, this handing on, can derive all the way back to the 3rd century, I think says something about the Christ kind, the kindness of the Christ event of Jesus' birth that has pervaded throughout our history.
Yeah.
I do have to admit, William, I got a few points taken off my Santa Claus presentation when I was in college because I didn't mention Krampus.
Krampus.
Should we talk about the Krampus?
Let's talk about the Krampus.
You know this story?
I know the name. I don't know the story.
I know the name. I don't know the story as well because, of course, I forgot to do that research for my project. But I forget which country this aligns with. I'll look it up on my phone. But Krampus was essentially this like anti-Santa. Whereas today, if kids are on the naughty list, they get coal in their stockings. But it's part of Central European folklore. And this Krampus figure is like half goat, half demon. It's terrifying.
That sounds scary.
There's a movie, a horror film, a Christmas horror film on this legend of Krampus. But yeah, like if kids were bad between Christmas seasons, they could get kidnapped and.
Whoa! Hold up, back it up. What now?
I think definitely return to their families.
Oh, maybe that's where he got the elves. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that could be. Here it is. Krampus would swat wicked children, stuff them in his sack, and then take them away to his lair.
Where he did deals with Santa Claus and gave them elves.
Yeah. It says here he has a weakness, the evergreen stake. So if you could stab him with an evergreen stake. This is interesting. Yeah, that's horrifying. If you wanted to keep children in line during the Christmas season in Central Europe in ancient folklore, just tell them this story and, you know what? I'm glad that we don't know the Krampus story because that's a story that needs to die in tradition.
Yeah,
that's
like
a story that
yesterday.
Can't. Yeah, it's a story that can't get passed on. That's not Christmas season.
it'll scare the kids into doing what you
That's
want.
a good point. Yeah.
You know, I know a couple kids that need to be scared straight.
Yeah, me too. A couple students.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Anything else? Can we get your best Santa impersonation?
Oh, Lord. Okay. I think my voice is a little too high-pitched for this, but here we go.
That's good. That's good. Sorry, I interrupted you.
I feel like that was good.
No, that was really good. That was really
How
good.
about you? Let's hear it from you.
Here we go. Ho, 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 Merry Christmas.
That is like infinitely better than mine, my lord.
I've been practicing for a long time.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's very good.
It's something that I aspire to do well.
Yeah. It's a good thing to do well.
And my dad looks like Santa. Dad, if you ever listen to this, sorry, but your belly and your beard and your hair just make you look like a Santa Claus.
Honestly, so does my dad.
Really?
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, yes. Have you ever? I have a picture of him where his beard is like fully grown out. I dared him to grow his beard out for a full year.
That's incredible.
You know? And it was, sorry, Dad, if I offend you, but it was when your beard was going gray and you looked like a younger Santa Claus, and it was just like out to here.
Yeah.
And then that was, of course, the year he decided to dress up as Santa Claus.
Oh my gosh.
And I can't remember. I think it was back when he worked at the Whole Foods in Cedar Center. But I remember going there and seeing him, and I was like, oh, wait. That's what the mall Santas are.
Yeah.
That's not actually Santa.
Yeah.
It was
Santa's
hilarious.
helpers.
Yeah,
but,
of course. But
yeah,
that's real. It's my dad. So does that mean?
Yeah.
You know, it was that
Wait a
clicking
second.
moment, like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I remember going to the mall as a kid to visit Santa and just being so honored and flattered that Santa is at my mall. Yeah. And then,
and not the other
Santa's
10,000 malls in America.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Great Northern Mall, right now.
Exactly.
The man
that
from the
mall.
North Pole. And he knows my name? Oh my gosh. Incredible.
That's crazy.
What's your favorite, I guess, like, to refine this question, not just your favorite Christmas movie, but like your favorite Santa-based Christmas movie?
Santa-based Christmas movie. Cause see, I knew the answer right off the bat. It was gonna be Elf.
Oh, for Christmas movie. Well, Santa's definitely in that movie too.
He is in that movie.
Yeah, Elf is an instant classic.
I would have to, either Elf or like one of the model animation ones.
Oh,
you know?
yeah. Rudolph, Santa Claus is coming to
Exactly.
town.
I have all of those on DVD.
Yep. Yeah.
It'd have to be one of those probably. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I like, my top three are probably Rudolph, the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Good one. Classic.
Santa in that movie is just great. So same with Mrs. Claus. She's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody likes a skinny Santa. Eat, Papa, eat. Which, according to Thomas Nash,
said
is
all
true.
Italian grandmothers ever.
Yeah, manger, manger. I also really like the Santa Claus, but this is a hot take.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that movie.
Hot take. I like the Santa Claus 2 better than the first Santa Claus.
I've never seen the second one. I'm ashamed to say. I've
it's
only
so
ever seen the
good.
first.
It's so good. You got to watch it. Things get a little wild with the Santa Claus 3, but Santa Claus and the Santa Claus 2 are definitely up there.
It's a good storyline.
Great
Very good
storyline.
storyline.
Oh, the spelling of Santa Claus in that film. All right, back to my college presentation. It was a group presentation, and we lost points because somebody changed the Google slide. Like, I made the title slide Santa Claus, Santaclaus. One of my group members, without telling us, looked at it and thought that it was misspelled. And she spelled it, oh, come on, there's an E at the end of that.
No.
So, and that's the beauty of the film, the Santa Claus, because it's like a contractual obligation, a clause, C-L-A-U-S-E, the Santa Claus.
It's terrible.
It's got double meaning, Santa Claus and the Santa
yes.
Claus.
Yeah.
So I lost points for that presentation for that. I'm not going to name this person, but
It's
I
a
remember
major
the name.
oof moment.
Big oof, yeah.
Big oof moment.
Naughty list for sure.
Don't name the person,
I won't.
but
no,
send the
I won't.
podcast to them. Send this episode. I'm going to give you
Don't
the audio.
name her, but I'll send her the
and
podcast.
send the audio to that person.
Yeah. Fast forward to minute 30, and
Big flex.
yeah, right. That was a
Minute
tough
like
grade.
45 with Mr. Merriman earlier.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, how the heck did I get a B on a Santa Claus presentation? I've known this figure my whole life
Oh my gosh.
because of a misspelling of Santa Claus.
How do you give a B on a Santa Claus presentation? That's my real question.
I don't know,
How do you
man.
give a B on a Santa Claus presentation? It's Santa Claus.
Santa Claus. I know.
You know? Unless it's just like one side that says Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was rough.
That's rough.
I loved it though. Still, it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So yeah.
How are we doing out there, audience? Hope you guys are doing well.
So there we go.
Some cookies.
Yeah. Eating some very good cookies.
I've never been on live. This is my first time.
Yeah, I was on live like 2 times over the summer with Gardier. Shout out to Gardier. I don't know if you're on here or not, but you're the man. So yeah, you know.
I second that. Gardier is the man.
Gardier is absolutely the man. And we're even, I don't mean to plug this, we're even thinking about recording some music, you know?
That's amazing.
Get that going.
Would you both sing? Would someone sing?
I'm not 100% sure. It was an idea, you know?
Why not, man? Go for it.
Why not? Yeah.
I feel like every person at some point in their life is considered like, what would I sound like if I were a singer? Would people listen to my album? So just make an album and see.
Yeah. I mean, I sing along to Frank Sinatra all the time.
You got the hat.
I have the hat. I have the coat. I have the Frank Sinatra look.
Let's go.
Down to a T.
Let's go.
Yeah. I think I've memorized basically every Dean Martin song, most of Frank Sinatra's music, and a couple of Nat King Cole albums.
Wow.
And when I say memorized, I don't mean I can hum along to them at the kitchen sink. I mean, like, I can literally sing word for word almost every single song by these people.
I'm jealous.
So I need a life.
No, God, no. Yeah, I almost referred to you as an old soul, but that's not old soul stuff. That's just, like, authentic, like, verified baller. Like, this is the real good music.
Yes, I haven't moved past the 60s. I'm going to be
There's nothing wrong with that.
I have not moved past the 60s one bit. Not even by like a year or two. Just stuck there. Solid.
Stay gold. It's solid gold.
Solid.
Ain't that a kick in the head?
Oh my god. I
Dean
listened
Martin
to that
pun.
on the way in.
Did you really?
Oh, I have that album. I literally have that album in the car with Mom in the parking lot right now.
Awesome.
Because I know she's on here and I know she's in the parking lot listening to this exact song
hello.
while we're recording this.
That's awesome. Oh, I just saw a like. Maybe that was her.
That was probably her, yes.
That's sweet. That's sweet.
Yeah, there we go. That was...
this was fun.
It's the Christmas special for you guys.
The Christmas special. If it could be Christmas every day, I'd be a happy camper.
Absolutely. But then we wouldn't be able to come here because the school would be closed.
Good point.
Yeah.
I take that back.
Yes. School Christmas every other day, so we can still record Green and Gold Radio.
Are we gonna throw another piece of this podcast together for the Christmas special?
I'm not 100% sure, but before the year 2020 comes to a close, I'm releasing an Apocalypse episode.
Oh, that's right.
We're recording tomorrow.
It's only appropriate that the close of 2020 signifies a purpose for an apocalypse episode.
Oh my god, yeah. Because like,
God help us.
Okay, I'm not going to spoil anything for the episode, but like it's well timed. And for those of you on the live, if you want us to live stream the Apocalypse episode, let us know, and maybe we will.
The start is near.
Maybe we will.
Not the end. The start is near of that next episode.
Yeah. So
I'm kind of sad right now, William. Not gonna lie. I'm kind of sad that this episode's over because I love the Christmas special.
Oh, it's such a good thing. Maybe we'll do another one.
Yeah.
You know.
Or maybe we just go out and celebrate.
Maybe we just go out and celebrate.
Maybe
That's
we
the
just go out and
plan.
live it. Yeah. Absolutely.
There are other holidays we can do. The Easter special will be pretty
Oh,
interesting.
Easter special. We'll get Mr. Merriman back on.
Yeah. Maybe Mr. Williams even.
Mr. Williams, yeah.
Or maybe both.
Valentine's Day special.
We have 3 mics.
Both. We do.
We could get all of them.
We have 4 mics. Let's go. Oh, we got 3 mics with the host. Yeah, we'll have to specials.
Put something
from here on
special
out.
together. Something very good.
I wish I had like reindeer bells to cue us out. You know, like Santa's leaving your house and you hear this ching 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 ching. We do have cookies though.
Oh, I'm so dumb. Okay, so for those of you listening, I've been patting my pockets and looking around for my phone to play bells while we left, but my phone's right there recording.
Oh my god.
So
that's hysterical.
That was a major dumb moment. All right, so now we're just going off. This has been Green and Gold Radio Christmas Edition. I'm your host, William Plavin Masters, with...
I'm Mr. Barrett.
And we're signing off on the audio. We're probably still going to do the Instagram Live for all of you on the audio, so yeah, you should have logged on. We're signing off, and goodbye. Now